In the vast tapestry of American history and cinema, some names shine in the spotlight, while others leave an indelible mark quietly, shaping stories behind the scenes or in fleeting moments on screen. Today, we explore the lives of two remarkable individuals who, in very different ways, touch the hearts and minds of millions. On one side, there is Joan Bennett Kennedy, a woman who grew up far from the public eye, only to become part of one of America's most famous families. She experienced love, loss, and immense personal trials, all under the unforgiving gaze of the public. Mother, musician, survivor, and advocate, her life was a delicate balance between family loyalty, personal passion, and resilience in the face of tragedy. On the other side, there is Ron Dean, a man whose name may not be known by everyone, yet whose face has become iconic in American film and television. A consummate character actor, he transformed every role he touched, bringing authenticity, depth, and humanity to even the smallest parts. From Chicago stages to Hollywood sets, his dedication to craft and subtle artistry left a legacy that quietly shaped the way audiences experience film. In this video, we dive into their worlds, one filled with the drama of a legendary political dynasty, the other with the quiet mastery of cinema, and discover what made their lives, struggles, and achievements truly unforgettable. When you hear the name Kennedy, you think of political dynasties, triumphs and tragedies, and the complex legacy of one of America's most famous families. But behind every public figure in that dynasty stood someone in the shadows, quieter, gentler, yet just as important. One of those people was Joan Bennett Kennedy, a woman who lived in the light and shadow of history, remembered not only as the wife of Senator Edward "Ted" Kennedy, but as a gifted musician, a devoted mother, and a person who faced her own private struggles with courage and grace. Virginia Joan Bennett was born on September 2, 1936, in New York City, into a devout Catholic, middle-class family. Her father, Harry Bennett, worked in construction, while her mother, Virginia, raised the children. From an early age, Joan was surrounded by discipline, warmth, and music. She began playing the piano as a child and quickly developed a deep love for classical music, a passion that would stay with her for life. She attended Bronxville High School and later enrolled at Manhattanville College, where she studied education and music. Joan was known for her grace and quiet confidence. She participated in campus cultural events, played piano at charity gatherings, and was admired for her calm demeanor. After earning her bachelor's degree, she went on to pursue a master's in education at Lesley College. For a time, she taught music to children and imagined a peaceful life as a teacher. But fate had other plans. In the late 1950s, at a social event in Boston, Joan met Edward "Ted" Kennedy, the youngest brother of John F. Kennedy. The two quickly fell in love. Ted was charismatic, ambitious, and already preparing for a political career. On November 29, 1958, they married. Joan, only 22 years old, suddenly found herself part of America's most talked-about family. Her life changed overnight. The young music teacher from New York became the elegant, soft-spoken wife of a Kennedy, a symbol of grace standing beside a rising political star. She traveled with Ted on campaign tours, gave public speeches, smiled for the cameras, and tried to live up to the image the world expected of her. But behind that image was a growing sense of pressure. The Kennedys were not just a family, they were an institution. Joan's world revolved around constant public appearances, endless scrutiny, and the weight of history. She found solace in her children. The couple had three: Cara, born in 1960, Edward Jr. in 1961, and Patrick in 1967. To Joan, motherhood was the center of her universe. She adored her children and tried to shield them from the relentless media attention that surrounded the Kennedy name. The 1960s brought both triumph and unimaginable loss. Joan stood by Ted through his early years in the Senate, but she also witnessed the assassinations of John F. Kennedy in 1963 and Robert Kennedy in 1968, events that devastated the family. Then, in 1969, came the Chappaquiddick tragedy, when Ted Kennedy's car went off a bridge, resulting in the death of Mary Jo Kopech. Joan, then pregnant and in fragile health, attended the funeral and supported her husband through the political and emotional fallout. The scandal forever changed the Kennedy family's image, and Joan's life with it. As the 1970s unfolded, the glamorous facade began to crack. Ted's political career continued, but his marriage was faltering. Joan's role became increasingly isolated. She was a mother, a public figure, but not truly a partner in her husband's life anymore. The pressures of constant media attention and the weight of family tragedy began to take their toll. Music became her refuge once again. She taught piano, played at charity events, and tried to rebuild a sense of peace. But gradually, under the stress, Joan developed an alcohol dependency. Her struggles were painfully public. She entered rehabilitation several times, and in 1978, she made a brave decision to speak openly about her alcoholism and the toll that public life had taken on her. In an era when few women, especially from powerful families, discussed such things, Joan's honesty was shocking and admirable. That interview transformed her public image from that of a quiet political spouse into that of a woman fighting to reclaim her identity. By the early 1980s, her marriage was effectively over. When Ted Kennedy launched his presidential campaign in 1980, Joan kept a low profile, rarely appearing by his side. They separated soon after, finalizing their divorce in 1983. For the first time in decades, Joan was no longer a Kennedy in name, but she remained a Kennedy in heart and spirit, deeply connected to her children. After the divorce, Joan focused on her music and personal growth. In 1992, she published The Joy of Classical Music, a guide for you and your family, a book that reflected her lifelong passion for the arts and her desire to make classical music accessible to everyone. It was a modest success and became part of her effort to define herself beyond her famous last name. Even as her health declined in later years, Joan remained deeply engaged with her family and community. She attended family gatherings in Hyannisport, where she would sometimes sit at the piano and play for the younger generation, a living bridge between the past and the present. The loss of her daughter Cara in 2011 deeply affected her. Friends recalled that she became more reclusive afterward, but she never lost her gentle humor or her love for music. Her son Patrick, who later became a prominent advocate for mental health reform, often said that his mother's struggles inspired his work. Her openness about addiction and her resilience taught him compassion. On October 8, 2025, Joan Bennett Kennedy passed away peacefully in her sleep at her home in Boston. She was 89 years old. The news of her death prompted tributes across the country, not just from politicians and family members, but from ordinary people who remembered her dignity, her strength, and her quiet grace. Her son Patrick called her, "a woman who taught us to love music and forgive mistakes." Joan's life was not one of power or headlines, but of endurance. She lived in the shadow of greatness, yet carried her own light. She was a woman who endured tragedy, public scrutiny, and personal struggle, and through it all remained deeply human. Her story is a reminder that behind every great name there are unseen battles and quiet acts of courage. Joan Bennett Kennedy may not have shaped policy or led movements, but she touched lives, through her art, her honesty, and her determination to survive. Her life was not about perfection. It was about persistence, grace, and the courage to be herself in a world that expected her to be someone else. The name Ron Dean may not be widely known to the general public, but for anyone familiar with American cinema and television over the past 50 years, his face is unmistakable. He was the quintessential character actor, the type of performer whose presence, even for a few minutes, could transform a scene, adding authenticity, tension, or humanity. Whether playing a police officer, detective, city official, or father figure, Ron brought each character to life with a subtle, unforgettable realism that left a lasting impression on audiences. Ron Dean was born on August 15, 1938, in Chicago, Illinois, into a working-class family that valued hard work, integrity, and resilience. His father worked in construction, instilling a strong work ethic in Ron from an early age. His mother devoted herself to raising the children and encouraging their curiosity. From a young age, Ron was captivated by the arts, especially music, theater, and storytelling. He would spend hours observing stage performances, films, and early television shows, meticulously studying actors' movements, intonations, and timing. This formative exposure shaped his lifelong dedication to realism and attention to detail. In high school, Ron actively participated in theater productions. He developed his skills in improvisation, characterization, and timing, earning praise from teachers and peers for his ability to observe and replicate human behavior. His calm, focused demeanor and patient nature became trademarks of his later professional work. Chicago, with its vibrant theater culture and early TV productions, became his creative playground, where he honed the subtlety and nuance that would define his acting style. In the late 1960s, Ron began performing professionally in theater. He quickly earned a reputation as an actor who could elevate every role, no matter how small. Directors admired his consistency, preparation, and ability to fully inhabit a character. His stage work provided a foundation for his later film and television career, instilling in him a deep understanding of character development, pacing, and the importance of nonverbal storytelling. Ron's early professional work in theater included both classic plays and contemporary productions. He was particularly drawn to stories about everyday people facing moral dilemmas or societal pressures, which reflected his interest in realism and psychological depth. His colleagues described him as a meticulous actor who would spend hours perfecting subtle gestures, facial expressions, and vocal intonations, believing that small details could define a character as much as dialogue. By the 1970s, Ron Dean transitioned into film and television. His screen debut may have been modest, but it showcased his trademark ability to create fully realized characters in limited screen time. Unlike many actors who chase fame or starring roles, Ron focused on authenticity, ensuring that every character felt lived in, believable, and nuanced. In the 1980s, his face became familiar to wider audiences. In Risky Business, he played a minor yet memorable character, grounding the film in realism. In The Breakfast Club, he portrayed the father of one of the teenagers, a role that, though brief, added emotional texture and context to the adolescent story. His performances were never superficial. Every gesture, glance, and tone conveyed depth, subtly hinting at a larger personal history and inner life. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Ron continued to work in prominent films. His credits include The Color of Money, Cocktail, The Fugitive, and The Dark Knight 2008, where he played Detective Wart. In each project, he brought a grounded, credible presence that enhanced the narrative and made supporting characters feel essential to the story. Directors often relied on him to deliver authenticity, knowing that even brief appearances would be memorable and effective. Ron Dean's approach to acting was marked by humility, discipline, and precision. He believed that no role was too small to be fully developed and that attention to minute details could elevate a scene from ordinary to unforgettable. He often said that a minor character, performed with care and truth, could leave a stronger impression than a lead role played superficially. This philosophy guided him throughout his career, shaping his reputation as a consummate professional and a quiet hero of American screen acting. He specialized in portraying men of authority, police officers, detectives, and city officials, but he avoided stereotype. Each character, whether on screen for 30 seconds or 5 minutes, had distinctive traits, motivations, and behaviors. His subtle use of gestures, tone, and timing brought an undeniable realism to every role. Ron remained deeply connected to Chicago, both as a home and a creative hub. He participated in local theater, collaborated with emerging directors, and offered guidance to young actors. He often held workshops, discussing character development, improvisation, and the importance of authenticity in both theater and film. Friends and students recalled his patience, generosity, and commitment to craft, a mentor who taught by example rather than by words alone. Off-screen, Ron Dean led a relatively private life. He lived in Chicago, valued his friendships, and remained close to his family. He avoided the trappings of Hollywood celebrity, focusing instead on the work itself and the communities that supported his craft. His humility and dedication earned him respect not only from colleagues but from the wider artistic community. Over 5 decades, Ron Dean appeared in more than 50 films and television productions. His performances were defined by consistency, subtlety, and emotional truth. Viewers might not immediately recall his name, but they recognized his presence, his face, and the humanity he brought to each scene. His career serves as a masterclass in character acting, demonstrating how depth, care, and attention to detail can make even small roles unforgettable. Ron Dean passed away on October 5, 2025, at the age of 87, leaving behind a career characterized by dedication, precision, and quiet influence. Colleagues remembered him as a quiet hero of the screen, a man who transformed every scene he touched into something authentic and resonant. His legacy is found not in awards or celebrity, but in the countless films and television shows that bear his mark, roles that enriched stories, added realism, and left a lasting impression on audiences. Ron Dean exemplifies how true artistry is measured not by fame, but by craft, integrity, and the power to make even the smallest part matter. As we close the chapter on the lives of Joan Bennett Kennedy and Ron Dean, we are reminded that history and art are shaped not only by the famous and the celebrated, but also by those who endure, persevere, and dedicate themselves quietly to their craft and their loved ones. Joan's journey teaches us about resilience, grace, and the courage to face public and private challenges with dignity. Ron's life reminds us of the subtle power of dedication, the beauty of small yet unforgettable contributions, and the impact a single committed individual can have on the world around them. Though their paths were different, one in the glare of public scrutiny, the other in the nuanced light of film and theater, both left legacies that continue to inspire, teach, and move us. Their stories endure, a testament to human strength, artistry, and the quiet, lasting influence of lives well lived. And as we remember them, we are invited to reflect on our own stories, the moments that define us, and the ways in which we, too, can leave a mark, subtle or grand, on the world.